everyone, I'm Glass with the Angry Toads, and I'm here to bring you the second list in our top 7 horror movies from various decades. This episode will be discussing the 80s. We hope you enjoy our list.
Number 7.
Released in 1980 and directed by Stanley Kubrick, The Shining is a film adaptation of Stephen King's novel by the same name. Here we follow the story of Jack Torrance as he lands a job at an old hotel as a winter caretaker. He moves him, his wife, Wendy, and son Danny into this hotel, and soon they find themselves caught in the strange disturbances. His son starts to have visions, and Jack himself slowly goes insane, putting his family in danger. Another Stephen King adaptation, this time with the crazy Jack Nicholson. While some may argue that Nicholson's descent into madness doesn't appear apparent enough and brought the film down since he looked insane from the start, we still say this movie was great nonetheless. Being stuck out in the middle of nowhere, essentially in a haunted hotel, is unsettling, but having your husband slowly start to realize he wants to brutally murder you and your child makes things just a bit more horrifying.
Number 6.
Released in 1989 and directed by David Schmoller, Puppet Master tells the tale of 4 psychics who were contacted from beyond the grave by their colleague who's found the secret of an old puppeteer who was able to bring his puppets to life. As they investigate these claims, they become entangled in a dangerous situation, finding themselves being hunted by the sentient puppets out for blood. Inanimate objects coming to life almost never goes well, but bringing to life creepy murder puppets is just 1,000 times worse. This movie terrified me personally as a child, and I know it did others. While in later films things got a bit corny, it was the first film that really was the horror movie, and scared us it did. These murder puppets drove knives right into our hearts and made it on our list just for that.
Number 5.
Released in 1987 and directed by Clive Barker, Hellraiser is the first installment of the terrifyingly bloody franchise. Here we are introduced to the Cenobites, brutal hellish beings, as we see their bloody play at work. The film focuses also on Frank, a victim of the Cenobites, as he schemes and plots for his resurrection after being skinned alive. Hellraiser was gore-filled right out of the gate. It made no qualms about what it was, and it delivered on so many occasions. Frank's resurrection was enough nightmare fuel on its own, and then we get the Cenobites, the disturbing demon-like beings hell-bent on causing pain and anguish for anyone who plays with their box. Having skin and being able to sleep is such a good thing. I think we'll be staying away from any boxes or puzzles from now on.
Number 4.
Released in 1980 and directed by Sean S. Cunningham, Friday the 13th is the first film in the long-running franchise and tells us of the backstory of one of our favorite slow-moving serial killers, Jason Voorhees. We're taken to Camp Crystal Lake as it prepares to reopen after the death of a young camper not long before. One by one, the counselors find themselves in danger as there is a mysterious someone out for blood. Our first introduction into this franchise was ingenious and brought us more reasons to fear being a teenager having sex. Being trapped at a summer camp, trying to enjoy youth, and having someone run around taking people out is not my idea of fun, though it did succeed in making us afraid of camps and lakes, so it did its job well.
Number 3.
Released in 1988 and directed by Tom Holland, Child's Play introduces us to everybody's favorite bloodthirsty doll, Chucky. After a criminal is killed and his soul possesses a child's doll, he finds himself given to a young boy as a gift. He then starts to slowly manipulate the child, adapt to his new form, and finds he is able to continue his murderous tendencies. Whatever it is with bringing dolls to life, it needs to stop. Chucky made us very wary of any doll that we or our siblings may have had, and while his one-liners did make us laugh, his murderous rampage made us scared of being murdered by our own toys, especially Teddy Ruxpins, because I know they're still up to something.
Number 2.
Released in 1984 and directed by Joe Dante, Gremlins tells us why it's always a good idea to listen to somebody when they tell us not to do something. After a man buys a mogwai for his son as a pet, he's given 3 rules to follow. Even though his son isn't a child, he still manages to not follow the simple rules, and of course, all hell breaks loose. You might be surprised that this was so high up on our list of horror movies or on it at all, but we love this movie, and our fear of Christmas trees and Furbies should make that very obvious, that we were also frightened by it. It started out as such an adorable movie and turned into a campy horror trek into the dangers of not listening to what people tell you to do. While it was scarier when we were younger, its impact lasted throughout the years.
Number 1.
Released in 1984 and directed by Wes Craven, A Nightmare on Elm Street, our number 1 movie from the 1980s, introduces us to Freddy Krueger. Following a group of teens who are plagued by hellish nightmares, they soon find out that they're all coming from one man's doing. With this knowledge, they struggle to stay alive from something that isn't in their physical reality. Of course, at the top of our list is the invader of our nightmares, Freddy Krueger himself. Well, like many long-running franchises, the later Nightmare movies got more cheesy than scary, but the original stands out as being the most horror of them all. He can invade our dreams and kill you in real life through them. That concept enough is gonna make us not want to sleep, but actually seeing it is another story altogether. So much for a good night's rest. So there you have it. Now you know how we feel about 80s horror movies. Do you agree with us? Disagree? If you haven't seen any of these films, we highly recommend watching them. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so let us know down in the comments. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you all next time.